This is KCAL News Mornings at 9.
And our coverage continues this morning as we honor Pope Francis after he died at the age of 88. Tributes are pouring in from all over the world, including right here in the U.S. President Trump tweeted on Truth Social this morning, saying, "Rest in peace, Pope Francis. May God bless him and all who loved him." Former President Biden also tweeting out that Pope Francis was, quote, "unlike any who came before him." He continued by saying the Pope will be remembered as one of the most consequential leaders of our time, and further stated, "Above all, he was a pope for everyone. He was the people's pope, a light of faith, hope, and love." Former President Obama wrote Pope Francis was the rare leader who made us all want to be better people. He went on to say, "May we continue to heed his call to never remain on the sidelines of this march of living hope." Pope Francis leaves behind an enduring legacy of acceptance and reform within the Catholic Church.
Joining us now to help us learn more about the papacy under Pope Francis is Daniel Roeber. He's professor of Catholic Studies at Sacred Heart University. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being with us. Can you talk a little bit about the impact Pope Francis made on the Catholic Church in those 12 years? It seems like a short period of time when we look at some of the history of the Catholic Church. Why was he known as the People's Pope?
Sure. Well, Pope Francis, when he was a priest and a bishop and a cardinal in Argentina, was somebody who liked to be out on the street, who liked to be with the people, especially with the poor. And his image for the church was as a field hospital, as a place, an institution that would be out there serving the people, not walled up away from the people. And he really tried to live this out in the way that he would go to places like Lampedusa to be with migrants, to engage with the poor and with the marginalized in society.
One of my favorite images is when he's in the Pope-mobile,
yeah.
greeting the crowds as well. While many applaud reforms the Pope made, he was also a divisive figure. Can you talk a bit about that, and as well as his critics?
Sure. Well, I would say that Francis is an interesting example of somebody who is beloved and hated for many of the same reasons. For precisely trying to open up the church to new conversations, such as acceptance of LGBT persons in a new kind of way in the church, as well as really criticizing forces around the world of what you might call the political global right on issues like migration, on issues like treatment of minorities. And these often brought him in conflict with both politicians and supporters of regimes like that.
So let's talk about, I think one of the biggest points we've heard throughout the morning is how humble he was, and his choices, how they kind of changed how people looked at the church. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, yeah, Pope Francis, he's the first pope to take the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi. And Francis of Assisi, of course, was known as somebody who gave away all his possessions, who lived kind of practically on the streets with the poor. And Francis really tried to embody this in his pontificate. His first gesture of coming out on the balcony and asking the people to bless him was an example of saying, "I'm not here just to govern over you, but I'm here to be with you and to ask for your help." Again, he had all kinds of gestures in his pontificate, washing the feet of prisoners on Holy Thursday instead of priests at the Vatican, really trying to put himself out there as somebody who would be of service and of modeling a church that is of service to everyone.
And Daniel, earlier we talked about the number of cardinal contenders right now, different views, different stances. Where do you think the next pope's philosophy will stand? Will it be more progressive, conservative, or maybe somewhere in the middle?
Sure. Well, Francis himself, interestingly, even though there is kind of the stereotype that he was beloved by progressives in the church and disliked by a lot of conservatives, is somebody whose actual writings and kind of philosophy would actually probably come down somewhere between those two. And I think that complicates who his successor will be. Certainly, he's picked most of the cardinals who are going to choose his successor. There's an old Italian saying that you always replace a fat pope with a skinny pope, meaning that, in other words, the kind of pope who succeeds someone is usually quite different. Not always the case. Benedict XVI was chosen as a pope of continuity with John Paul II, for example. So I think whoever they choose, the papacy will be changed by Francis. Any kind of successor is always reacting, whether in continuity, in discontinuity, in tension with their predecessor. And Francis has done things that his successor is going to have to pay attention to.
Absolutely. Daniel Roeber, thank you so much for your time and insight.
All right, thank you.
And we'll have continuing coverage as the world pays tribute to Pope Francis. You can watch on KCAL News or kcalnews.com, streaming on CBS News Los Angeles.